Hi, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of VCTV. Um, so, again, it's a very interesting topic today, and I have a couple of new speakers because we're going to talk about Africa, the opportunities that we have in the continent in terms of investments and the money that is getting pumped into the startups and the entrepreneurs in the ecosystem. So yeah, it's very interesting. And today I have some regular speakers and new speakers and a founder from the continent itself who's going to share startup later in the show. So before I start introducing my speakers, I just would like to introduce myself for those who are new for the first time on VCTV. My name is Sunny Mohanty. I'm the regional director of LATOKEN based here in Singapore, and I host VCTV every day, Monday to Friday at 8 p.m. Singapore. So VCTV is a platform to connect investors with founders. And there we go. That's me. Thank you so much. So today I'm going to start with the speakers who've just joined us for the very first time. A little bit of intro and background about yourself. Lexi, over to you. Let's start with you. How are you? Welcome to VCTV.
Hi. Thank you for having me, Sony.
Welcome. A little bit of intro and background about yourself, please. Thank you.
Sure. So I moved to Nigeria about 8 years ago. My previous life, I was working a typical Wall Street investment banking to hedge fund job and took a sabbatical traveling the continent and really fell in love with it. It's a huge opportunity and really not a lot of international capital flowing into the market at that time. Moved out to Nigeria to work in private equity, and during that time, saw what was happening in the very early days of the tech ecosystem there. Founders were coming back from global enterprise companies like Google, Facebook, and starting businesses in Nigeria. There certainly were a lot of problems to fix, and that's still the case, but really not a lot of capital to help these founders grow. So I decided to switch, moving out of growth private equity and into the venture capital landscape, and supported some very early stage companies that at that time, the likes of Paystack, Flutterwave, M-Pharma, Migo, Smile ID, to mention a few. Companies that are now really the winners in the tech ecosystem. We're currently on our second fund and continuing to deploy in seed and pre-seed companies. So please, if you have an exciting business that's operating on the continent, please reach out. We'd love to hear from you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Lexi, and welcome to VCTV. I hope you become a part of the family as we go.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So next I have Ayo, who's just joined us for the very first time. Hi, welcome to VCTV. A little bit of intro and background about yourself, Ayo.
Great, thank you so much for having me. I'm Ayo Bamigbe Teriba. I currently work as a relationships analyst at Ingressive Capital. Ingressive Capital is a $10 million fund. I'm investing in pre-seed and seed-stage companies in and around Sub-Saharan Africa, to include our target market, which is Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, and currently we are trying to close an important entry into Egypt. So we are pretty excited about the opportunity that this kind of platform gives for us to kind of engage the ecosystem, field the pulse, and get feedback. And it's also great to find my friend from Accuracy Ventures, and also to see like we are friends also on Paystack Cap Table. That's also one of the recent successes of the ecosystem. And we're excited about the opportunity that kind of gives the growth we've been funding over time. So Ingressive Capital is a $10 million fund. We invested in a couple of interesting companies in and around Nigeria, also in Kenya, and also in Ghana. And our portfolio companies are going on to do amazing things. So excited to be here, excited to talk about the opportunities in Africa, and also what we're unlocking with venture capital in the ecosystem. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. And welcome to VCTV. I hope that you continue to be a part of VCTV family. Thank you, Ayo. So next I have, I like to go with Joel, who has joined us for the first time in 2021 on my panel. Hi, Joel. Welcome back. Happy New Year. This is my first session with you in 2021. Joel, you're on mute, please. You are on mute.
Yeah, so I've been on the U.S. side of the panels for the time being because of the time difference. So very, very quickly, East West Hospitality Group, we're a private equity venture capital advisory firm, primarily in the retail and consumer space. We've done quite a lot of work in Africa. We've actually worked with emerging capital partners, ECP, with Actis, with Norfund, and a number of other groups, primarily in East Africa and in Nigeria and West Africa. So we love the continent. We love the growth story. And it's quite similar to our work historically in Vietnam, Indonesia, India and China. So we're happy to be here and interested to learn who's pitching.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much, Joel, for that intro. Happy to have you back on our show as well with that little gap that we had. Next, I have Sean. Hi, Sean. It just felt like we are in continuation from yesterday's show.
Oh, definitely. I feel like I live in LATOKEN's house. If there was an online apartment, I'm one of the roomies. How are you all? I hope everybody's doing well. It's a pleasure to be here. Again, my name is Sean Burrows. I'm the co-founder of Ingressive for Good. That is a foundation tasked with training 1 million youth, deploying $1 million in scholarship funding, and connecting them to 5,000 jobs over the next 5 years. This foundation created based on what we learned from Ingressive's advisory company and the Ingressive capital that IO is in, but basically to address the talent gap that startups need to grow and scale and different things like that. So I've spent a lot of time listening to and supporting entrepreneurs. So it's a pleasure to hear the pitches today, and it's a pleasure to see some of the old and some of the new faces. So thank you for having me.
Excellent, and always happy and excited to have you, Sean. Great. Next, I have Malu, who just joined us. Hi, Malu. You finally get to join the show. Welcome back on another episode of VCTV. So yeah, let's start with the introduction, please.
Hello, everybody. My name is Malu Kusano. I'm the managing partner and founder of Monster Capital. We help growth stage African companies raise funds. And in addition, I'm based in Hong Kong and work in private equity for the Jepson Group. We do high growth investments into European companies and help them expand into China. I'm super happy to be back on the show and look forward to hearing the pitches. Thank you.
Have we got your name in the opposite direction? Is it Sano? Is your first name? Is that correct?
Yeah, so my Sano is my last name.
Oh, okay. So I got it right. Thank you so much for clarifying that. So next I have Gary. Hi, Gary. Welcome back.
Hi, it's been such a long time.
Yeah.
Like 24 hours. Anyhow, it's great to be here. My name's Gary Fowler. I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. I've done 17 companies, 2 unicorns. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce 22 months ago for $1.35 billion. Also, I'm the co-founder of Viva.ai, one of the top AI HR tech companies in the world. David Yang, Russian, is my partner. It's a Silicon Valley-based company. And I love AI and quantum. I've written 122 articles in the last year. I actually have done 450 plus podcasts over the last year. I'm pretty active. I've got one of the top shows in Silicon Valley, Gary's Picks, where we highlight companies from all over the world. And I'm investing in Africa. I have 3 African startups, one in Rwanda, Nigeria, and South Africa, and Cape Town. So we're aggressive. I have offices in Indonesia, Australia, Russia. I actually started the first accelerator in Russia, the #1 private corporate accelerator, GBA, Launch Guru. So we love it. We love startups. We love artificial intelligence because it's new electricity. And look forward to the show today. Thank you.
Absolutely. Sorry, Gary. Absolutely. I always look forward to your insights. Go global.
Absolutely. Yep. 100%.
Thank you so much. So let me just a little bit give you a slight perspective today. The venture capital scene in Africa has consistently grown with an influx of capital from local and international investors reaching unprecedented heights in recent years. To understand how much growth has occurred, African startups raised $400 million in 2015 compared to $2 billion that came into the continent in 2019. That's according to the fund Partake Africa. So let's discuss about how the country is attracting more investors, more VCs, more investors in the fintech space. Because what I hear and gather, lots happening in the fintech space, a lot of acquisitions happening, a lot of new serial entrepreneurs emerging from that continent. It's going to be very exciting. So stay tuned. And don't leave BCTV. And you can actually put your comments while we are live, and we're going to take your questions as we go. Thank you so much. So sit tight. My first question is going to be for Sean. Hi, Sean.
Hello.
Yeah, let's talk about trends 2020 and fast forward 2021 when it comes to investments in Africa.
In 2020, as far as the trends go, we did see a lot of up and down. And again, we saw similar patterns to what you were seeing all over the world. But again, it was just done quite differently within the continent, specifically Nigeria, where I'm based. So again, you had a lot of focus on, of course, the belle of the ball, which is always fintech. So you had a lot of companies that were attracting funding and different things there. I don't want to take too much from Ingressive Capital side. I know there's a specific $200 million mention over there. But again, you just see a lot of people trying to solve the problem, especially now when you have all the back and forth with FX and different things like that of how do I make payments to my neighbor? How do I make payments across the board? And again, what you find now is I can't say it's increased now, but what you've always seen going on is like, how do we reach the unbanked? How do we access the untapped? So that's why you see companies active, like you see your Pagas, you see your you see your Paystacks, you see a lot of different payment platform companies that are growing or even just surviving longer than a lot of people thought, because that's a major problem that we're trying to solve. Another area outside of the fintech space is you see a lot of edutech. Again, the world has transitioned into solving a new problem. How do you teach people when you can't touch them? You can't talk to them. How do you run your offices now? You see, again, we had this conversation before, Sunny, where a lot of us have shut down our offices and different things like that. So there's a transition into, again, just a major focus on collaborative technologies. A lot of focus on the education side, but also on the co-working side. We saw Zoom increase by 600%. That incentivized people. That inspired people to look at approaching this from a new direction. So those were some of the major ones. I know we all have some areas we want to tap into, so I'll try not to go into all of them. But yeah, the last one I would touch on as well, this is a reach over from yesterday. So if you guys were on the chat yesterday, I'm gonna go ahead and just sprinkle in the mix gaming. Again,
sure. And the memes.
Yeah, gaming. Gaming. Sorry if we left the rest of you that one. But yeah, gaming represents this huge opportunity. It's one of the biggest industries in the world, outgrowing a lot of different ones. So when you look at the fact that even in Nigeria, you had a 8,000% growth in how many people were coming onto the internet between 2013 and 2018, and you combine the stats with how many people are actually playing online games with their phones and different things like that, it just represents this growing community, this growing opportunity that is transitioning also into 2021. Again, I feel like that's 2020, and I feel like 2021 is 2020 part 2. So you're seeing a lot of transition, a lot of the same trends going on there. But again, they're just key overall areas that I would pay attention to in 2021. Maybe I'll go into deeper details, so I'll give other people a time to speak, but there's always going to be agriculture. There's going to be infrastructure and power and logistics. You're looking at, and also you're looking at the retail sector, just based on the amount of people. You're looking at 34% of the African continent now transitioning into a middle class. And those numbers are growing. So you're seeing a growth in the amount of expendable income. But please let me, let me release the mic.
Sure. No worries. Thank you, Sean. That was great start. Thank you so much. Next, I'd like to ask Joel, who just mentioned that he's investing a lot into African startups. So, Joel, again, the same question: trends 2020 and looking forward.
I think the easiest thing. There's some good things and bad things about Africa. Obviously, many of the African countries are very small, thanks to historical colonialism. So, in some cases, if you don't do a pan-African business in East Africa, it's difficult because each market is relatively small. Nigeria is a special case, obviously, because it's so large compared to anywhere else in Ethiopia. But no, the trends I see in Africa are trends which are following what you see in other emerging markets. Similar, for example, in Indonesia, people are digitizing all the warungs, all the small shopkeepers all over the country, so they can eliminate cash because they don't have banks, they don't have credit cards. So I think similar things like that are happening in Africa. Logistics companies, I mean, people are, the cold chain in most of these emerging markets historically has been very poor. So people who crack the cold chain logistics systems are in a huge opportunity to grow. So, anything that benefits from consumer growth, from retail growth, that, I'll use the example of Safaricom. The first time I went to Kenya, I was blown away by people paying on their analog phones. I mean, we still barely do that in the United States with our digital phones. So Safaricom, people used to stop me on the street in Nairobi and told me I looked like the guy that founded Safaricom Pesa. And finally, I happened to meet him in a restaurant, so I could see why. But it was an older chap that looked a little bit like me. So I think all the trends that are happening in emerging markets like Indonesia, Vietnam, India are happening in Africa. They're just happening slower a few years later. And the other issue, of course, the infrastructure in many of these countries in East and West Africa are still way behind where they are, even in Indonesia or India. So I think that's the biggest challenge, depending on the business. But in terms of brain power, there's no shortage of it in East or West Africa.
Perfect. Wow, that's a good sign. Thank you so much, Joel, for that start. Lexi, you are right now in Nigeria. Am I correct?
I'm actually joining right now from Cape Town, but I do live in Nigeria.
Nigeria. So great. So this is your first show, and we would like to know your insights, what you experience. May I ask you, were you born in Africa by any chance, like South Africa?
No, I grew up in the US. So certainly came to Nigeria extremely naive and still have a lot to learn. I don't profess to know exactly how the Nigerian consumers are going to react to every single tech product that's out there, but I do my best to learn.
Perfect. So tell us about the investments, the startup landscape that, as per you, because you've been living there for a couple of years, I guess. So what do you see? What did you see in 2020, and where is headed to in 2021?
Yeah, so I think similar to what some of the other speakers have mentioned, Fintech has certainly played out very aggressively over the last couple of years. I think it still is, but we're going into a new evolution. So initially, when there were lots of platforms focused on digital banking, online payments, microloans, I think that you're seeing another evolution that's now more complex solutions like open banking software, potentially some insurance tech products as well. We're also very excited looking forward at healthcare technology platforms. I think there's already been a couple success stories in Nigeria and across the entire Africa continent, but also platforms that really enable trade. So cross-border enabling platforms that allow clearing, logistics platforms, other companies that are helping both small and large businesses with inventory and supply chain management. We think that those are really interesting spaces to focus on now. I would say, contrary to some of the other speakers, we are not yet super excited about the direct-to-consumer opportunity broadly, although I do think there's some interesting subsectors that certainly approach that. We generally love models that target major enterprise customers as their primary customer base, but then their growth is based on the end consumer. So some of those are certainly the APIs that are driven by API calls, identity platforms. You've certainly seen it play out already in payments. And the reason for that is the ability of the consumers to spend is still quite low relative to their overall income. And acquiring those consumers is also still difficult, although I think getting much easier because digital literacy is moderate, although rapidly improving, as is trust. But you've already seen that really change, I think, even over the past year, where now consumers, partially probably because of COVID, but also because of the big names in tech that have really shown that they're legitimate companies on a global scale, are now being trusted by consumers everywhere. And so you are seeing consumers, store money in digital wallets, provide their identity information for KYC. And I think that is starting to open up a lot more direct-to-consumer opportunities as well.
Good news. Thank you so much, Lexi, for that. Next, I would like to go with Ayo, who's again joined us for the first time on VCTV. Hi, Ayo. So which country are you dialing in from?
Yeah, I'm calling from Lagos, Nigeria.
Oh, perfect. So yeah, let's start with some some insights from you as well. Like we have Sean and Lexi and Joel shared some of the insights. Anything you would like to add on in terms of trends and the future?
So yeah, amazing insights all panelists have dropped before now. But kind of for me, it's actively being a boot on the ground. I'm like a soldier in the ecosystem, which means I actually do a lot of engagement with founders. I'm also kind of very vast with with analysts across different ecosystems and different VCs. I would say that it's more of the science coming out of Africa is more of a good sign that needs to be more like deepened down. What I'm saying is we as an ecosystem have come from the point of like seeing very rudimentary, seeing very not understanding what technology is from the West to becoming the market where almost all Western players are looking to deploy capital into. So the ecosystem as of 2020 has shown that year on year, even though COVID happened and then it slowed a lot of things in the ecosystem across the world, year on year, the venture capital that flows into Africa doubles as against every other market you're seeing, every other developing market or emerging markets in the world. So Africa is clocking 1.07 billion as the estimated disclosed funding coming to the ecosystem. For just 2020, I would say this is a growth, like we're in the growth stage of development for Africa. A lot of our companies are starting about 2015. That was Paystack, was the first company to go to YC as they exited. You've got Sendwave also exiting toward Remit. You've seen Bionic. So like every other structure that means a complete ecosystem is happening. You've got like as fund managers, we know we've got to raise, we've got to deploy, and we've got to return. Some interesting signs that come out of the ecosystem, like we are already back returning capital to our LPs. So for Africa, it's still going to come to pass that because we are a very dynamic continent across everything from skin color to actually even our growth phase. We are a very the models across the world doesn't particularly mean it's going to work for Africa, and that's what makes us dynamic. So we are at the growth stage because we are finding interesting growth stage funds start deploying into specific niche companies into Africa. You're seeing target VCs going to companies like Kuda Bank. They're deploying across just their niche of funding. You're finding interesting companies going to ULESSIN, which is an edtech, across a specific niche of like companies. That means an edutech VC going into an edutech company, a digital bank VC going to a digital bank company. So you're already seeing like the growth stage has come to a stage where people are no more just waiting on trends or like, oh, how are the governments doing? But people are able to see like, oh, the innovators in the ecosystem have taken the bulls by the horn, I'm moving forward. I've got traction. I've got things to report as success. So why won't you want to back them? Why won't you want to back the continent that's going to house 50% of the working population by 2050? Why won't you want to back the next emerging markets that's got a growth phase that is actually tackling the likes of established markets across the world? You've got Kenya, you've got Rwanda. Rwanda is doing policies that kind of makes it very synonymous with Singapore. You've got Nigeria doing a lot of, like, even though the regulatory balance coming out of Nigeria is not the best at the moment, but you've got the fact that the innovators in Africa would not stop. They would not be bullied because of the regulations coming on. They would actually build around regulations because that's how unstructured, how kind of rigid the market has always been. But that is a specific niche case for the market. So as against everything I've heard, I would say I'm excited. I would say I'm more bullish. And I would say that at the point, it's just about allowing Africa to kind of do things at its niche pace, because we've got a particular pace that is niche for us. So that's it.
Great. Thank you so much, Ayo, for that. I love, very elaborative insights as a start. We have somebody who's going to pitch Hugo later on as well. So quickly, Malu and then Gary. Malu, your opening remarks and talking about trends and future of startups and investments for 2021 as well.
Thank you. So all the panelists have said amazing things. So I think that the biggest trend last year in the African ecosystem was the validation, right? Like the most important validation was the exits that we saw. So we saw the Paystack exit, which Ingressive Capital and Maya were a big part of. We saw the MS Africa exit.
exit too.
Exactly, and Alexi as well, right? And right, we saw also the validation of big players coming into the African ecosystem, like Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg had previously invested in Andela, and then you have big players like Jeff Bezos investing in companies like Chipper Cash. You have Y Combinator taking a growing number of African companies year on year, and you see the bigger fintech players are also emerging into different countries as well. And we're not only seeing the traditional payments anymore, we're seeing wealth manager companies like PiggyVest, we're seeing new neo banks, right? And then also I think that the biggest trend for 2021 is the emergence of open banking, just like Lexi rightly mentioned, and APIs, right? So we have companies like Mono, we have companies like Okra that are significantly, building out solutions for to get more African companies connected to their consumers. So I'm very, very bullish on the future of African technology. And to the point of Joel earlier, even though Africa might have infrastructural issues, I believe all these issues are beautiful because it just gives more room for tech-enabled solutions, and it gives more room for innovations as well, right? Most countries, right, may not have the proper road infrastructure, right? But the good thing is people have 2 mobile phones, right? The internet penetration is growing year on year on year, right? So that's why we're seeing the emergence of durable companies that can actually scale throughout Africa, right? So I think there are very, very beautiful things happening on the continent, and with investors like Lexi and with people from Ingressive Capital as well. I'm sure they're going to continue to back category defining companies.
Yeah, I see Sean has been doing this. It's basically an Indian dance step. Great, he's happy, he's doing hooray. Okay, great, thank you, Malu. Before actually coming live on the show, I was reading as well. I did a little, I was very, in a good way, surprised to see so many entrepreneurs in fintech payments, open banking, API. I mean, infrastructure is a challenge though, that's what I read, but still lots happening in Africa as a whole continent. Gary, over to you, please, because you are a global person. And let's talk about what you see.
I'm a country boy. Come on.
Country boy.
From Pennsylvania. So yeah. we see that there's, intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world, but opportunities aren't. And so when I first went to Russia in 1992, people said, oh, why would you go to Russia? There's nothing there. It's a third world country, etc. And, the rest is history. So as it started to develop. And the same thing, I mean, people don't realize the size of Africa. There are what, 200 million people in Nigeria, about 100 million people in Ethiopia. The continent's about 1.2 billion. Africa's at China's at 1.398 billion. So you're talking about an enormous population. At the same time, I mean, it's in fact, I had dinner with one of the wealthiest Nigerians at Stanford University about 2 years ago. Actually, I guess the wealthiest banker out of in telecom and everything, actually, fossil fuels. But anyhow, the interest in artificial intelligence, and think about it. I mean, now here we are, we're all over the world. I'm in Palm Beach in Florida today, normally in Silicon Valley. You're located over in Singapore, Sunny. We got people literally from all over the world. The thing is, it's different than a year ago is we can connect with each other. And as I said, I put my money where my mouth is. So I've got a company in Rwanda today. I got a company in South Africa today, and I have a company in Nigeria today. Why? Because there's really three pieces to it. One is the first part is acceleration. Great, interesting. The second part is regional dominance. But the third and most important, and each one of those has their own hurdles. The third most important is how to go global. And as we know, Silicon Valley is a very tight-knit club, right? And I've been doing it for 36 years in the Valley, have had a lot of successes, have met a lot of some of the wealthiest, the most influential people in tech around the world. It's a small, interesting group. And yet at the same time, the opportunities to be able to highlight those companies and 9 out of 10 startups fail. Why do they fail? Right? Because they don't have the visibility, they don't have a network, they don't know how to raise money, they don't know how to pitch properly, a lot of things. So I believe that the opportunity, it's an amazing opportunity in Africa today, as long as it's a focused, surgically precise approach. And specifically, like we did over in Russia, and again, literally, I'm a country boy. I came from a village in Pennsylvania of less than 500 people. So what I see that it's untapped. And, it's like we focused on the Black community in the U.S. Actually, one of the board members of the NAACP, if you know what that organization, the top Black organization in the U.S., is on our board. I've been doing this for 13 years. This isn't like today's news is yesterday, because that's where the opportunity. We each have a goal to be able to make wherever we are better. And the more jobs that we can create, the more we get into these deeper technologies like machine learning, deep learning. I'm writing a lot about quantum computing and quantum networks, et cetera. Those are the exciting things. And each one of us, I don't want to get into, I've been writing a lot about environmental things, but net is there's great opportunity, but the exposure is critically important, how to get them global. So VCTV does an incredible job since I've been involved in this thing since March, right? Incredible job. And I don't know, 400 or 500 shows later, incredible job of spreading the gospel out. And now what we got to do is turn that gospel into action. So I'm excited about it.
Great. Thank you so much, Gary. I know Gary's been from day one with Kyle. Thank you so much, Gary, for those insights. Lovely insights. So I'm going to ask a question that was asked by my colleague. By year 2030, report by UN estimates that there will be 1 billion unemployed African youths. This gap must be closed, or there will be increased social and economic unrest. So what opportunities can we take advantage of to address this future human resource? So I'd like to go with Sean first. Is that okay, Sean? Sean, you're on mute.
Gotcha. We back. Honestly, that's right down my alley. So Ingressive for Good is basically geared towards filling that gap. We're actually now completing a labor market research report that tends to actually go through and survey a lot of the major companies that are hiring talent, and also the ones that are placing talent. And then we will follow up with phase 2 with the company where we actually go to the talent itself and see what the actual gap is. The truth of the matter is, as much as there's a gap in technical talent in the African continent, we need to understand there's a gap in the entire world. One of the opportunities that I didn't mention before was that if you start getting into data and different things like that. So there's this really interesting company that basically sets up, that trains people how to do data entry for those, basically data AI. Basically, it's programming the AI for a lot of different websites and applications and whatnot. And they're training people who are just barely literate and actually teaching them computer skills and how to do this. And it's just that serious. They have to go down that far down to the pyramid to start accessing the talent that they need in just that particular sector. Again, the major issue that we find within the African continent and that we find in most developing countries is that even if you go to the university level, universities do not have the capacity to create the talent that is necessary to compete at the global standard. So you find a lot of people having to augment their educational path with things like online learning courses and different things like that. We particularly are plugging them into internships. We're plugging them into, we're connecting them with mentors and different things like that. Because again, just graduating from school and just taking a course, it still does not fill the gap. We have a lot of entry-level developers. In our community, we have about 40,000 with our newest iteration of the company, Ingressive for Good, that we've launched. But again, if you want to go through and filter that group and say, like, how many of these guys are CTOs? How many of these guys are senior developers or even junior developers? If you start to see a much, much smaller number. So again, if we are going to start attacking this gap, we have to start having a conversation where we bring in the private sector, where we start bringing in these corporates and saying, like, you have to start giving people a chance to work and intern and learn. You don't just wake up. Andela found this out the hard way. They had a lot of money invested into their policies and practice. I mean, not policies and practices, but the company itself. And then, fast forward a few years, and now they had to change the entire model. They had to scale back. They had to let go of almost 200 or 300 developers because there's just not necessarily that market for it. And you can't just keep siphoning all the talent to developed countries. You have to start developing those opportunities locally. So again, I think I lost track of the question a little bit, but my major point is just to say that the focus has to be on talent development. We have to give them access to the learning resources. And then again, we have to plug in the corporates to allowing the youth and different people to have an opportunity. And that's where you're going to start seeing them have the capacity to start their own companies, the capacity to really start engaging in disruptive innovation, the same way you would see in a Silicon Valley. Again, there's just not as much infrastructure. There's just not as much inherent knowledge gathered from just participating in the daily society like you have in more established economies.
Yeah, you're right on track, Sean. It's about human resource. So human resource is probably Africa's biggest potential. What must be the priorities for government? This question is for Lexi. What must be the priorities for government, businesses, and professionals to ensure these resources do not go to resort or social and economic unrest?
I think that
for me,
that's for Lexi.
Yeah, Sean, but I think Sean probably has a fantastic view on this also.
Maybe
can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Lexi. Yes, very much.
So I think certainly inclusive policies for private sector companies themselves are hugely important. Enabling companies to really grow only improves the employment challenges that we're facing. Education, of course, is a huge gap, but I think you have really seen companies step in to do specific training and skills-based training, particularly around developer talent. But also, this can certainly be expanded into not only other aspects of technology, but communications, call centers, whatever you have. I think that Nigeria specifically could be an incredible hub for a global digital marketplace of talent, and is already starting to be. Yeah, I mean, like the unemployment problem that we face is absolutely a massive challenge, but we only get there by promoting and supporting private enterprises to build their companies successfully, in my view.
Perfect. Thank you, Lexi. I'm just conscious of the time. Joel, over to you, please, with the same question.
Yeah, I think my answer is really pretty simple. I'd look at it from the top down first. First, you have to have capable government, number one, and that capable government has to build infrastructure. And one of the biggest problems in Africa, particularly in Nigeria, is power. I mean, we know that. I mean, everybody has to buy generators. Sometimes the power's out for a week, 2 weeks. You can't run a business with no power. And I mean, that's a huge problem. So I think if you don't have good government, if you don't have somebody building a decent infrastructure across the country, that's one of the things that China's done so well. Even Indonesia, compared to 25 years ago, power doesn't go out very much. You know, Vietnam, India is another case where it's an infrastructure mess. Okay, so if you don't fix infrastructure, then I think at the end of the day, it's very difficult to build a sustainable growing economy. The other thing is that there may be 2 or 3 different types of economy. Just digitizing every retail store in Nigeria would employ a hell of a lot of people, and that's exactly what they're doing in Indonesia, with fintech. So it depends. I mean, the opportunity comes in, and you can use lots of foot soldiers. They don't all have to be tech people. They don't have to be highly educated people. You can use moms. You can use, teenagers. You can use all sorts of people to be employed doing what I could call on the ground work, for larger tech platforms, as just one example. So there's a lot of opportunity, but again, if the infrastructure isn't there, it's not going to happen very quickly.
Absolutely, Joel. Infrastructure is the backbone. Thank you so much. Malu, over to you, please.
So I believe that I agree completely with what Sean said and with what Lexi said earlier as well. I think it's a mix between government and private institutions as well. I think fundamentally the education system should be changed. I believe that we should change to a tech-based education system that supports developers, that supports more entrepreneurs as well. So Nigeria actually has a very, very high quality of developers and internet entrepreneurs. So I believe policies should be put in place to support innovation and to foster investments as well. And on the other side, I believe that the infrastructure should be there. But fundamentally, I believe that the only way for the African continent to move forward is through technology. And I believe that a lot more opportunities will be created through that, through that. And we have lots of new companies that are coming up every day, and they're creating millions of solutions that can create tens of thousands of jobs as well. So I believe fundamentally should be education, more tech-based education, like they have in India, where you have very strong developers, computer programmers. It should be private sector as well. So we should create an atmosphere where private sector companies feel comfortable operating in Africa, because that's where Africa gets its black mark from as well. Private sector companies don't always feel comfortable operating because of the gray laws and etc. And as well, we should have the necessary infrastructure in place to support both the education and to support both the private sector as well. Thank you.
I agree. Education, infrastructure, very important as well. I mean, education is first. Gary, over to you, please. Same question.
Can you repeat it again? Because we've had several different versions.
So what must be the priorities for government, businesses, and professionals to ensure these human resources do not go to resort to social and economic unrest?
Well, I mean, you got to give them jobs, right? It's keep it simple, stupid, right? It's about job creation. I mean, that's what we're doing. My thing is the best way to help, and I've seen it all over the world. Great jobs, great high-paying jobs, and support the ecosystem. So I'm not sure. There's one thing about government support in terms of coddling it and nurturing it, but it's really about the private sector to get out and create those companies, bring those companies out to the rest of the world. It's how much money can they bake, how many unicorns come, and it becomes a snowball effect and the self-fulfilling prophecy. So once you start and you get a couple out, I've seen it. We did it in did it over in Russia, did it through Central Asia, in California, when I started one of the first e-commerce consulting companies, same thing. oh, e-commerce isn't going to work, et cetera. And then we start creating jobs, and then all of a sudden it starts to bloom. So that's where it needs to be, and it's happening, Sonny. I mean, the good news is, like I said, we have 3 African companies in the last month. So, I'm seeing incredible talent there, and we want more. Because the thing is, it's one thing. It's like having a Ferrari, right? If you keep a Ferrari in a garage, only it's a Ferrari in the garage. And the thing is, take it out in the track and run it, show people, share ideas, collaborate on it, that kind of thing. So we need to get the African Ferrari out of the garage and take it out for our Range Rover, maybe, right? we got to
like it out of the garage. Ferrari and Range Rover and
take it off. I mean, but that's what it's all about. And and this, I'm very excited about the optimism, the passion in Africa, and the opportunity to be able to succeed. And it's just seeding the system. One of the things, it's like a GPS. I had a conversation with a guy. It's worth $47 billion on Sunday in Dubai. And one of the things he said is like having a GPS system in your life, right? You got to know where you want to go. So let's visualize where we want to be. Let's look at the companies that have the skill sets. And Nigeria's got amazing skill sets. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, if you have those skill sets, which you do, mine them, right? Develop technologies, because guess what? Those same AI models can be used across multiple vertical markets. The only difference are the training sets. So let's develop some really cool companies that focus on that. And guess what you are, right? I have one for Rwanda. I mean, the only thing I knew about Rwanda is gorillas before I started working with a company there. Seriously. I mean, and that's just me. That's what I knew, because I was passionate about conservation. So let's go, but let's get out and get them. Let's not just talk. There's a lot of bullshit out there in the world about talking. It's about getting shit done.
Absolutely. We have a question from our online viewer. So African youths are eager to have more opportunities to work. How can we ensure these opportunities get to them despite the challenges in the continent? Who would like to take this question, please?
I nominate Sean.
Okay, cool.
Please go ahead. Thanks, Nathan, for asking that question.
So for me, the thing is, just tying that to also the question asked before. For whom much is given, much is expected. So Africa has gone to a stage where you have 17 years old as its median age. That's an average Nigerian age. In the next 10 years, if you don't develop jobs for those people, they're going to transition from that into terrorism, into having to fend for themselves in any other attractive means that comes. It's not who we are, but it's the fact that when a man goes to a particular age, he's got to feed the folks behind him. He's got to feed himself, and he's going to find a way to do that. It's just a human instinct. So a lot of African youths are eager to get opportunities to work. How can we ensure this opportunity gets to them? And so the thing about the continent is, first of all, it's perception. And I feel a lot of times, Africans, and we are doing it, we need to kind of redesign the PR that gets out there. Before now, there's a lot of stories that made about Africa, fraudsters and whatnot. But the truth is, we all know that Africa is not the height of fraud in the world. There are more countries that do fraud than Africans, but they're pinning on the Africans. So how would you expect people that actually get a version of the news? If you only watch CNN, you will only know the good thing about Democrats, right? So it's like Africans need to actually do the right PR into the world. Like, we need to actually show who we are, and we've seen it in amazing companies all around the world. Jeff Bezos will not invest his dollars in an African company if it's a shit company. So the truth about it is, like, we are good for what we get, and we actually need to just go out there and get more opportunities, build our skill. Joel has said a lot of things about like what we need to do and how we need to do it. We just need to do things smartly. We need to actually build, not just for Africans, but build for the world. We need to build in a collaborative manner. We need to build leveraging mistakes and also prospects that Africans can get by engaging in a lot of people around the world. So for the opportunities we can get, and I feel like put yourself out there, develop your skills, get better, and also like keep pitching, keep engaging opportunities. It will definitely come. So yeah, that's it. Sean.
Thank you so much. Sean, over to you, please.
Yeah, just to make it quick, I would say we definitely have to facilitate at every single level possible the growth and the creation of startups, just across the board. I think startups, if you look at the impact it had on the U.S. and creating so many different opportunities there, which is why, companies, areas like Silicon Valley had so much weight, just because they were just pumping out high value companies in whatever capacity. So again, we have to support that area of company creation. And then I think at some point there has to be a personal responsibility within the African continent to not just get the skill to actually start making money. You'll find people getting skills in gaps. Like, I can do this particular thing because it gets me money, but do I know how the whole process works? No. We have to start being masters of our craft. You have to start wanting to achieve and get skill sets at the highest level possible so you can actually compete for these jobs. That I'll leave it there. It's a long conversation, but I will leave it there.
Thank you so much, Sean. I think we're done with the question. Let's move on to our pitching now. We have Hugo, who is here now. Hi, Hugo. Now we can start presenting now. We hear some noise in the background. Is it coming from your side? You can switch off your fan if that's what's making the noise. Yeah, that's better. Can you unmute yourself?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. You can start the presentation by clicking on the share button on the.
All right, thank you.
Bottom.
Hi, good day, everyone. My name is Ugochukwu Anthony Osunde. I'm the CEO and founder of Refuel Logistics Services Limited. The Refuel solution was born out of passion to make life better in a troubling world like this and in Nigeria where things are so difficult. I had this experience of running out of gas on a very good day, and somehow I lost my cool because I was unable to get my gas delivered. And out of that experience, the refuel solution was born. The problem is most times because of the large expanse of land in Nigeria and distance from gas stations to residential areas, we have difficulties in accessing this service. We go all the way driving, and with the traffic in Lagos and most cities in Nigeria, you have issues of accessing this service, despite the fact that most of these gas stations are readily available for services. Now, the problem of convenience is very is happening that we have to go distances, driving, stuck in traffic to get our gas filled. And sometimes a whole lot goes wrong. Gas explosion, accident on its way. This is a big problem we are currently facing in Nigeria. Just recently, over 12 or 15 lives were lost in Agbo Delta State, Nigeria, because of gas explosion. Both people that were discharging the gas and those that came to purchase lost their life. Now, the problem is enormous. Nigeria is currently going through what the world is going through in COVID-19. Distancing is very important to help stop the spread of COVID-19. It's a problem we have right now. What is the solution Refuel is bringing? Refuel is an independent solution that integrates various vendors across a particular area. For instance, the various gas vendors in an area subscribe to the Refuel solution, where they can have their services on the Refuel gas app, thereby making themselves readily available to be accessed by consumers. So the consumers go to the mobile app, check for the closest station to them, just like Uber and Taxify. They easily access these ones closest to them. And the Refuel solution is such that it's not done here in Nigeria as it were in other words. We are using motorcycles, unlike tricycles that are being used by some of these independent gas stations. We are using motorcycles that are two-legged, so they can easily maneuver through traffic and they are faster. The fabrication done on the for the carrier is such that it can take 2 cylinders, 2 bottles at a time. Refuel will bring about it has brought about job creation because we employ riders, admin staff, and administrative staff, the accountants, and all that. So we are looking at expanding to bring in job creation. At the moment, like we discussed during this section,
a lot of people are losing their jobs. So we have to contribute as our corporate social responsibility by creating more jobs in the ecosystem. It reduces the number of road users heading to the gas station. Anything can happen. The roads are not really safe in Nigeria. But with our trained riders that are working for refill, we have to mitigate the number of people heading to different gas stations at different points in time to get their gas refilled. It ensures that customers get value because our various gas vendors that we are currently subscribed to and the many more that will come on board will ensure that value is sold for what money is paid for. At the moment, just recently, the federal government has encouraged users in Nigeria to use LPG as their cooking fuel. The number is increasing. Over 600,000 metric tons of gas is being consumed in Nigeria as at 2019. Recently, there's a shift in that, a 40% shift in that, heading to 800,000 metric tons of cooking gas. You can see a figure there that shows the number of users of LPG. No matter the quantity, ranging from 2 kg to 3 kg, 6 kg, and 12.5 kg, people are subscribing as the purest form of cooking fuel. Our traction so far, we currently have about 4 partners that we're working with, and the result has been amazing. So far, we have about 100 cylinders per day, which is shared across the 4 riders we have. That's 25 deliveries per day at $2 per delivery, and $2 to $2.5 per delivery, which customers are not complaining because they are just paying for the convenience of what they are paying for convenience. Instead of leaving your house down to the gas station and coming back with the level of uncertainty of traffic and accident, you can easily pay the 2.5 in addition to the original cost sold by the gas station. We do not add any cost on the price of the cylinder or filling the cylinder at the gas station. We're just charging our customers an extra fee of $2 to $2.5, depending on the distance, for the convenience we are saying to them, which is the logistics being offered by refill. At the moment, we have about 100 recurring customers on a daily basis, and to deliver, we made an estimation of about 57,600 orders yearly based on 100 deliveries per day and 6 days in a week. So we came up with about 57,600 deliveries in a year. And if you are doing this at the operational cost of 330 naira, which is less than $2, it leaves us a profit of about 8,461 463 monthly profit on our delivery. Competitive advantage. So far, so good. A whole lot of companies are into gas sales of gas. Some of them are independent plants, some are roadside. Recently, the government, using the Department of Petroleum Resources, have ordered that all roadside vendors should be scrapped out because of the danger of having gas sold at residential areas. So these are our major competitors, the roadside vendors that sell. And even when they sell at a very high price and do not fuel this cooking gas to the brim, thereby selling 12.5 kg for about 4,000 and not filling it to 12.5 kg, ending up filling it at about 11 kg, sometimes 10 kg. So consumers get to complain about this issue. These are our major competitors. But our competitive advantage is that customers are assured that the partners which we subscribe to are where we are getting this their gas fueled, and whatever complaint that comes up, we'll be able to hold any of our partners responsible, and these issues are resolved immediately. The use of technology, aside using the mobile app, the Refill mobile app, we use the WhatsApp platform, which most people reach out to us more because it's easier for them to use the WhatsApp platform and phone calls to our customer care. Our partnership with trusted vendor helps us a lot because customers are already having trust in the refill solution because we deliver quality to them. Since we are using a trusted vendor they have been using before, and we offer after delivery support because our riders are also trained to know how to fix this cooking gas and resolve any issue that might arise in the course of fixing their cylinder. This takes a burden out of the consumers, which are our customers. Our experienced and trained riders are, to a great extent, careful on using the road to avoid and mitigate road accidents. It's reliable and the speed is awesome. In 15 to 10 minutes, this service is delivered. It's a two-way thing. You call as a customer or you order from the mobile app. We pick up your cylinder from your home, fill it at the gas station, and return back to you. At the moment, we do not offer the express delivery because of the constraints we have in Nigeria. Most customers will run away with the cooking with our cylinders.
Sorry to interrupt you. Lexi would be leaving soon. So she wants to know more about your team. So how long is going to be the presentation for? Because she's leaving. She has questions for you.
Okay.
Any questions for you go, Lexi?
Okay, I'm just at the team. So we have our current team, myself as the CEO, Mr. Ehi just said, that the director of strategy and marketing. The success of Refill so far has been our market strategy. We do one door-to-door marketing as we place stickers on gates of estates and individuals, and also at the gas stations where we have our partners. We put stickers on the gas, both for those that are buying from Refill and those that are not buying from Refill. We have Ms. Mary Okwechime as our COO, which spearheads the operation and of the company.
Thank you so much. So, yeah, Alexi, over to you, please. Your questions, please, for Hugo. Are you on mute?
Sorry, Hugo, my first question was just about the team, which I think you covered. But I want to understand how you acquire and retain your customer base.
Please, can you come again?
How do you acquire and retain your customers?
Okay, based on customer retention, for our existing customers, we do a form of discount. Okay, can you hear me? We do a form of discount to our existing customers. For instance, you do 4 deliveries with us, your next delivery is going to be free. Then on recommendation, when you recommend 4 customers, you have a free delivery for you. In acquiring customer, we use social media platform. You can check our Instagram handle at refill_NJ. We're on Twitter and we're on Facebook. So we use mostly the platform of social media to acquire customers, which have been very helpful. But one platform that has helped us so far is the traditional means of using stickers. We have the Refill sticker that states order from us using the mobile app, WhatsApp, or call, which you place on gates on different estates. There are lots of estates currently in Lagos. So on going out to fill your cooking gas or you're coming back from work, the moment you see a sticker like that on your gate, it sticks to your head. So on a day where you run out of cooking gas, you remember that there's something like Refill on your gate, and we've gotten lots of traction using that method of customer acquisition.
Lexi,
it's okay. I'm really sorry. I have to run. But it was so great to join you.
Thank you so much for joining, Lexi. I'm definitely going to have you back on VCTV.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Take care. Bye. Have a great day. Any other questions for Hugo, Malu, Joel, Sean?
Yeah, I have to drop off in a few minutes as well. But yeah, I do have a few questions. So, Hugo, if I get this correctly, right, you're basically an aggregator of different vendors of like different like LPG and like gas station vendors, correct? I can't hear you.
Hugo, you're on mute.
Yes, I am.
Okay, and have you developed a platform? And have you developed like a platform for that, or?
Yes, we developed the platform. It's the Refill mobile app. It has the vendor platform. It has the vendor platform, the customer platform, and the riders platform. So they are integrated. There are 3 mobile apps synced together. So the riders platform, the riders receive the order using that platform. The vendor platform, they see daily transaction, and the customer platform, they order from the mobile platform.
Interesting. And at what stage are you currently, and how many paying customers do you have, and how do you expect to like scale this?
Okay, at the moment we have 4 riders that are at the 4 different stations for proximity. Then we have about 100 recurring customers at an average of 5 to 6 orders per day. And at average of 5, because we're having about 20 customers every day. And sometimes we go as much as 50 per day. So scaling up, we intend to integrate more vendors which we have reached out to by purchasing more mobile bikes to help deliver faster to reduce the delivery time, because the closer the station to the individual, the faster the time frame of picking up and delivery. So scaling up, we have to reach more vendors and get more of our delivery bikes closer to them. That's we're scaling up.
Okay, perfect. All right. Hugo, I need to run right now, but
any last words from you, Malu, before you leave? Any last words?
Yeah, but thank you for pitching to us, and Sonny, please do send his deck to us after the call. Thank you.
Absolutely, I'll do. Thank you so much, Malu,
Thank you
for
so
your.
much, Malu.
Okay. So Joel, yes, I'm going to connect you with Hugo on email. So you have any questions for him now, right now?
Personally, because I've been to Africa many, many times,
Yeah.
I see the need much more in the low tech than the high tech. And also, let's be honest, the employment doesn't come from startup. The employment comes from scale up. So putting all the money into startups, in my opinion, is a waste of money. But finding the companies that are $5 million now that can be 30 million, 50 million, 100 million, that's how you create employment, not trying to find startups so easily, because it's much easier to scale something that's already working. So regarding what he's doing, look, I've been in places like the Philippines where there's a massive business distributing filtered water. Okay, I've also seen a massive business distributing cooking oil. So I think the basic stuff that people need, and I hate to say this, so please, I happen to love Nigeria. I love the people, but the infrastructure is so terrible that people are not going to get in their car and drive over to a gas station and buy their cooking oil. It's not going to happen. You'll be in a traffic jam for 2 hours. So I think the smarter thing is using bicycles or mopeds or some sort of cheap transportation to get these products to households. So I think if he's got a good solution to do that, it makes sense. So I'd like to see the deck, because look at Jumia. Jumia basically is food delivery on bikes, and it's got a massive valuation on the stock exchange in the US, right? And what did they do? They took Uber Eats or DoorDash idea and matched it to what would work in Nigeria, right? So I mean, the same thing. I mean, what he's doing is a basic need. Housewives, families need this. And if he can figure out a way of delivering it easily and cheaply without people having to go out and get it, then he's onto something. So I'd like to see the deck. I'd like to know how many competitors you have, and because I'm very familiar with this kind of thing, particularly filtered water and things of that nature that I shouldn't say housewives, families need.
Okay, so
All right.
what's your counter on that?
Yeah, Mr. Joel, probably you didn't hear me clearly. We're actually using motorbikes. That's just like you mentioned. Right. We use motorbikes, so it's way faster. Unlike other vendors, they use bicycle, which you can still be stuck in traffic. So
it's very hard to hear.
It's very hard to hear.
I'd rather look at a deck. I'd rather just look at a deck and find out how to. It's
okay,
easy.
I'll send it.
The voice is disjointed, as you know, Sunny. It's very hard to understand. So.
Yeah, absolutely. My apologies for that. Hugo, Sean, do you want to take any questions, or do I connect you guys offline? Because I think Hugo's connection in terms of the speaker is not there.
Maybe it's better to connect offline. But I'll say when we connect offline, if it's through email or something like that, I'd like to better understand what your total accessible market is. It feels like I see the need. I just know that Nigeria is still, especially at the top levels, a people-based economy, meaning I don't necessarily need an app to do something when I can just go and tell my house help to do it. So that's actually your competitor, is the house help in the infrastructure, people-based infrastructure that exists. So I'd love to see, like, how do you counter that? And again, once you consider that, like, who is your I want to know who your real customer profile is.
Sure.
All
so
right.
you don't have to answer that now. We can't hear you clearly. So some closing remarks. Joel, closing remarks for Africa Rising.
Yeah, well, I think I pretty much said it without repeating myself. It's an enormous long-term opportunity. But a little bit like India, it's got enormous infrastructure, structural problems that they need to overcome before it could really take off and reach the opportunity that it needs. And government is a big problem, because many cases government is not on the side. Corruption is a huge problem. I mean, we have enough corruption in the United States, but Africa is a whole nother level. I mean, if I were in Africa, I'd want to be in the generator business, because it's you have one of the largest oil producing countries in the world where people have to buy generators. It doesn't make any sense, and obviously that's corruption. With family businesses owning the generator business. So what I would say is, we just talk about Nigeria, lots of smart people, lots of entrepreneurial people, lots of successful Nigerians in the United States, for example. So it's a very entrepreneurial culture. So I think if you can just match, ideas with the stage Nigeria is in, you don't have to get to the super high-tech AI level in Nigeria to make a lot of money and be very successful. So I think if fulfilling basic needs and using technology as a way to be productive is a better way than thinking about super sophisticated AI in a place where the power goes out 3 hours a day.
I think in fact we still have a challenge to solve, like infrastructure. I think that's bare
Well,
minimum.
power. How can you have IT if the power's out all the time?
Correct.
Power is
Sean,
immeasurable.
closing remarks, please.
Awesome. I definitely have to jump off myself. So again, Sonny, it's always a pleasure to be here. Thank you. I appreciate what you're doing. Africa still represents the next ability to be the next Carnegie, Rockefeller, Musa Mansa. Like it's here. It's not overnight, but the ability to do these things are here. So I look forward to speaking with more entrepreneurs like Ugo. And yeah, let's keep our finger on the pulse.
Thank you so much, Hugo. Thank you, Sean and Joel. Thank you for the show. We are done with the show. I'm back tomorrow on VCTV, another topic, another set of speakers. Till then, keep watching VCTV and have a great day, all of you. Bye-bye.